What I do is inconsequential. Why I do what I do is I get to shorten people's journeys every day. What I love about our hospitality industry is that it's our mission to make people feel cared for while on their journeys. Together, we'll explore what hospitality means in the built environment, in business, and in our daily lives. I'm Dan Ryan, and this is Defining Hospitality. This podcast is sponsored by Berman Falk Hospitality Group, a design-driven furniture manufacturer who specializes in custom case goods and seating for hotel guest rooms. I'm excited to introduce Alissa Klees, the brand leader of Spark by Hilton, a trailblazing and disrupting brand that has taken the hotel industry by storm and earned Hilton recognition as one of Fast Company's 2024 most innovative companies. Alissa is the brilliant visionary behind the brand's strategy and performance. Her focus is on driving growth, meeting travelers' needs, scaling the brand globally, and fostering a vibrant brand culture and personality, all while bringing new and existing owners into the world of Spark. After getting her start in the restaurant industry, Alissa began her career with Hilton nearly 2 decades ago, bringing a wealth of expertise in strategic leadership, brand building, and owner support to one of Hilton's newest brands. Welcome, Alissa.
Hey there. Thanks for having me.
So I would like all of our listeners and watchers, because we are on YouTube too, just in case you don't know, to know that I first knew about Spark. Actually, I didn't know about it because it was very secret. It was a handful of years ago. I was in Chicago at a client's office, and I think they had like this Skunkworks-type room. It was behind closed doors. I'm really close friends with a lot of the people that were working in that closed room. They wouldn't say anything. It was like very like Lockheed Martin, Skunkworks, like laboratory. It was pretty cool. And I was always very intrigued. Fast forward to many years, you open up, I think the first Spark was up the road here in Mystic, Connecticut. Am I right?
Yeah, September of 2023.
In 2023.
Yeah.
Okay, so that was the first one. And then I think they could speak about it. I think they were involved in the very early concept stage of like, does this make sense? A/B test, blah, blah, blah. But I think what I find most exciting about Spark, because I was talking to Larry Traxler from Hilton at some event within the past year, he said it's really geared towards helping owners convert into a new flag. If they're unhappy where they are, they can kind of find a new home that's super fast and has an incredible speed to market. And I think that that's a very interesting concept within our industry. But before we go into all of that, I have to ask you, how do you define hospitality, or what does it mean to you?
Oh my goodness. I've been in the industry for a really long time. So I think of hospitality, though, as something that impacts both your personal life and your professional life. At the end of the day, we at Hilton are in the business of people serving people. But when you think about that, you do that in your everyday life, right? Whether you are having a dinner party and hosting your friends, you put care into what you give them or what you're going to serve them. And that's because you're giving a hospitable experience, right, to them. So to me, it's about how you treat your friends and family. It's how you treat the checker at the grocery store and how they treat you, right? They are in the business of hospitality. And obviously, professionally, we are in the business of making sure that if they choose us, whether it's Spark or any other Hilton brand, that they've got a great experience because the people made them feel good about the choice they made. So to me, that's really it.
So a couple of things, thank you for sharing that, but a couple of things on Spark in particular. And I'm a bit over my skis here because I'm a fan of hospitality, not necessarily an expert. But the uniqueness of Spark is that while the guest and the employees in that working there and have that heart of house that Hilton is so great about, I think they came up with the name of heart of house instead of back of house.
That's right.
I think what's really interesting is, I guess all hotels are financial assets, right? They're all operating, but not all of the time do hotels and new brands put owner first and foremost, right? Because this is really a way for a hotel to do a very quick reimagination, reflagging, and have a new impact from a speed and time to market perspective. So again, I said I'm out over my skis, but from your perspective with Spark, how did that priority get established, number one? And then how do you roll that out so that you don't lose sight of the guest and the employee at the same time, but really owner first? I guess like Danny Meyer, he said, if you're taking care of the customers and the investors are last in his chain of things, the investors are going to benefit. But this is actually really interesting because you are taking care of all those, but it's really about giving the owner like an easy button, if you will.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, you bring up an interesting point that we really did build this to be owners first. And so the secret, or not so secret to that, is the question really started around, we've got these beautiful legacy brands, Hampton, as an example, who's 41 years old this year, where you've got owners that have made a really long-term investment in Hilton, right? And they ultimately, at some point, that building, just like your house or anything, that building, right, may be ready for something new, because Main Street USA moved up an exit, right? Or because they want to build a brand new, beautiful hotel. And what do they do with this investment they've made? And so for us, that was really the first question that we asked ourselves, because before we didn't have a solution for them, quite frankly. It's like, thank you for your investment in 20, 30 years, and we'll see you next time. And so now what we've done is we've given them this opportunity to maintain that investment in the Hilton system, right? So that was quite frankly, that was the very first question. How do we take care of the owners that have made the long-term commitment to us already by giving them an opportunity to maintain that hotel in the Hilton portfolio? And you can probably think like, that's a no-brainer. Yes, you should do that, right? Yes, you should do that, Alissa. But it has to go beyond that, right? And so that, to your Skunkworks comment, is really where, you kicked off. So the easy answer was, yes, we need to do that. But if we do that, what's next, right? And is it bigger than that? And how do we introduce this in the marketplace, right? And what more could we gain, and what more can our owners gain? And that's where we started to really look at the guest, right? What was the guest experiencing? And could we change that? And frankly, make that more valuable to the guest, right? And so put all those ingredients in, right? And that's how Spark was born.
That was the spark of Spark.
That was the spark, the point of ignition.
Yes.
Start of something great.
So I love that idea of the spark of the idea. Now, you in 2023, you opened the one in Mystic. You've been one of the fastest growing brands at Hilton, and you earned Hilton a Fast Company, which it's interesting. I don't know how many, I'm speaking out like I don't really know, but it would seem to me there aren't very many Fortune 500 companies that get most innovative company, because once you're established, you tend to be doing that thing you're great at all the time and not necessarily innovating as much, right? You have your things, but how did Spark, from the time that you had the one in Mystic to where we are now in the middle of 2025, what's your growth been like at Hilton, number one? And then number two, on the heels of that, walk us through what a Hilton owner or someone else has experienced by learning about the brand and then having interest and then actually going through the conversion process.
It's interesting. So September 2023 is when we opened our first hotel in Mystic, Connecticut. And that owner actually purchased the asset to convert into Spark. So he believed in the story and wanted to pioneer it with us, right? So he purchased it, he closed it, and he converted it. And it is literally the most beautiful upcycling, I'll call it, right? That we've seen. We have today 161 hotels open.
Wow.
So would we say it is the fastest brand to launch and really start to scale? We mean that because the growth has been nothing short of incredible. When you think about it, we're opening at 161 hotels. We're opening a couple every week. We're in multiple countries. We have 6 hotels over in Europe, Middle East, and Africa region. So we are growing globally, right? Which brings you to your second question of what is it like for an owner, right? And in the community is close knit, as you may know, right? And so word of mouth is huge, right? And they all ask each other, "What was your experience? Should I do this?" And I believe it's the community of owners that are also helping us create that trajectory. From a perspective of what it's like, when an owner makes the decision, to either leave their current affiliation or move within the Hilton portfolio, right, to a different flag in this case, we really try to make the experience as simple as we can. One of our pillars when we built the brand was simplicity. And simplicity for us was 3 things. One, is it simple for the owner to enter into Hilton? Is it simple for the team member to work at the hotel so they can give hospitality? And 3, is it a simple experience for the guest so that they know exactly what they're going to get? So for an owner, we try to make it really simple. So we have a package that's incredibly consistent. If you take a look on our website and look at all of the properties, you'll see, wow, they really do look all the same. And that's intentional, right? Because then now the owner knows exactly how to convert, right? What to expect. The team member, the housekeeper that's cleaning that room, knows exactly how to clean that room. There's no secrets, right, hiding in there. Did I forget to do this? Did I, right, get that nook and cranny? And then the guest knows that when they choose the hotel in Mystic, Connecticut, and they had a great experience, and then they decide, I'm going to go try it in Orlando, Florida, when they walk in, they're getting the exact same experience. So I think that's what attracts owners, right? So the package, how they acquire the package, the design has been built off the back of a classic mid-scale hotel, right? Where we know generally how these things are all built because we build many of them ourselves. And so it's really enabled us and enabled the owner. When they make the decision, they can open their hotel on average within 7 months on the Hilton system.
7 months.
7 months from the time they make the decision. I would say on average, it's generally 7 to 12 months because owners are not going to close the hotel, right? To do the renovation. So when they do close the hotel, and we've had many that do, it's about 7 months when it's when they're open, have the hotel open, right? Then it's about 12 months. But it's all because of that simplified design package, how we acquire it, which I didn't mention. We partner really closely with Hilton Supply Management on that. So we are housing and have our vendors and our manufacturers and our partners agree to stock inventory so that it's readily available for order. I always laugh because if I wanted to order a new couch for my house, I'd have to wait, right, 18, 20 weeks for it. Yet these owners are getting their furniture in 10 weeks.
Okay, I want to dig into that a little bit. So 7 months being on average, what's the fastest you've done it?
4 months.
Holy crap.
Yeah. So our property in Germantown, Maryland, actually executed the conversion in 4 months. Their secret is they shut down the hotel, right? So if you shut down the hotel, then you don't have to worry, a lot about the operation. So it can be done. Obviously not ideal, right? You're not going to see that as the norm, but yeah.
Okay, so and then to go from 0 to 161 hotels also in 3 years, 2 years and change. 3 years. My math is not good.
It's almost 2.5. Yeah.
How many is that in dog years?
I mean,
Okay, but that's considerable growth. So if you're to look at that, imagine that 161 being a pie, okay?
yeah.
Are you getting like, is that most of that a portfolio conversion? Is it one-to-one? Are there any particular brands that are overweight in converting within Hilton, outside of Hilton? Like what if you were to take the 80-20 rule to talk about where those 161 are coming from, broadly speaking, what are you seeing?
99% of the portfolio is all external coming into Hilton. So they're coming from other affiliations into the Hilton system. And
That's a home run.
really is a home run. It's all one, and most of it is one-to-one. We have a few partners that have raised funds to do several, right? Because they believe in the business model, but the overwhelming majority, 90% of it is the one-to-one ratio or the 1-to-3 ratio.
That's actually shocking because most of the time when you hear about something like a number that large of a number in such a short a time, usually it's like it's a portfolio conversion. Like I know Sonesta did an amazing job of growing their brand through the pandemic by taking portfolio and converting them. But you're hitting, this is all from singles and doubles.
It's very organic, right?
That's unreal.
And organic growth is at the heart of what Hilton does. If you think about it, right? We build brands. We generally don't acquire brands or other chains. I mean, there have been a few exceptions that make the most business sense for Hilton in the space we're trying to enter. But we believe truly in organic growth. And I think, I don't think, I know what we did here with Spark was find a way to deliver a brand very organically into the system. This brand is really designed to attract a new owner to Hilton. There are countless, particularly in the US, countless owners where they aspire to franchise a brand in one of the big three companies, right? And us being one of them. And this gives them that entry point. I have a beautiful story that I think about a lot, and I tell the story a lot, actually, when people ask me.
Well, it's the first time I've heard.
Well, yes. So I'm going to tell it. I'm about to tell it to you.
Great.
But and I think it just goes to the heart of kind of what Spark has done and why this is grown so much. Is so we have a Spark up in Markham, Ontario, Canada, and that's owned by JM Hospitality. And we did the grand opening last summer up there, and it's the whole family was there that owns the hotel. The owner, his children, his brother's children, they're all involved in the business and they all have a commitment. And so they had the mayor there. It was just a really nice grand opening, right? And so the daughter comes up and she tells the story of why this decision was so important to her and why they were so excited to be the first in Canada. And so this hotel was a former Journey's End. That is a brand, if you're familiar with Canadian hotels, right? It's a former Canadian brand that was pretty prevalent, I think, in the 80s. And it was their first hotel they ever bought.
Oh, wow.
She grew up there. Her brother grew up there.
Working in there.
Working in the hotel.
Living in it.
Living around the hotel. Working in the hotel.
Wow.
Her kids, her brother's kids, they now go for swimming in the pool at the hotel. And so this was their dream. And he is an existing Hilton owner. He is not a new Hilton owner. But what her story is to say that this was our first hotel we ever bought. This was my dad's dream. We're now in this. And we now have this opportunity to maintain what was our dream and put it into the Hilton system, right? And be a pioneer with Spark. And there are countless of those stories out there.
So Alissa, as you're sharing that story, well, two things. One's a little bit of a sidetrack. So I almost stayed in Markham once. I brought my daughter up to see Taylor Swift. I forgot what hotel we were going to stay at, but it was the only hotel I could find.
Was it last November?
Yes.
I was there.
Oh, good. So we
A
hope
side note.
maybe we were sitting next to each other, but I could only find a place up in Markham. Then I checked again before we went. I actually wound up staying at the DoubleTree in Toronto, walkable to the arena, to Rogers Arena. But I missed my opportunity to Markham. But what I love about the story about the family from Markham is in the beginning of our conversation today, you brought up, like, if you own a house and you want to renovate it, like after time, you have to do these things. But oftentimes a house renovation is a huge capital expense. And sometimes we might not have that capital, speaking personally, to do the renovation that my wife wants. And, but from Spark and that easy button and the growth from a capital expenditure perspective, how does that contrast to other brands out there when people want to convert? Like, what makes it so compelling that people, for this many hotels to convert in such a short amount of time? Because that's probably the biggest expense if you're converting hotels. It's like, how do you paint, put new trim and finish and furniture, and just get everything up and ready from a capital expenditure perspective?
Yeah. I think when we designed the package, and that's what it is, it's a package, right, that you buy for the hotel. And so when we designed the package, we were very focused on cost. We launched, and it was one of the most economical renovations out there, right? So when you think about, but it also is dependent on the chain scale the brand competes in, right? So we are not an upper mid-scale brand. We are not an upscale brand, right? Where you're going to have a higher level of furnishings, more amenities in the hotel. We really went towards that pillar I mentioned earlier, simplicity. And simplicity was also had to look at the cost, right? So the package is really economical. For your listeners that are like, how much is it, Alissa? The guest room is $8,000 roughly.
Whoa.
Yeah. Yeah. And when you look at the guest rooms before and after, it is shocking what you see, right? You're like, wow, this is totally different. And so when you look at that, and if you're considering your investment and you're considering, do I want to go with Hilton? Do I want to stay with the affiliation I may have? Do I want to go to another competitor? Cost, right, is usually the first thing that they look at besides the franchise cost, right? It's the cost to go in. And so what we think we did is created a really economical package that is designed to withstand the length of the license, right? So the idea is these guys are renovating and they shouldn't have to do it again, up until the end of their license, which is important because you're making the investment once, right? So cost is what reigns supreme there. And Hilton Supply Management, honestly, was our core partner there. Our design firm, Pivot Studios, who helped us with like the case package and the FF&E, and then they partnered with Hilton Supply Management to negotiate the package cost. And that was shocking. When we launched the brand in October of 2022 at our owners conference, we had all our owners walk through it, and they were like, there's no way this is $7,000, $8,000. I mean, everybody was like, yep, home run, no brainer.
So imagine this. What I'd like to do is when we're done recording, I'm gonna get photos, like high-res photos of the rooms and lobbies. But like, imagine that you're speaking and there's an image of a room being shown on the YouTube channel right now, which there will be for the listeners, just if you want to log into YouTube or see this part. Walk us through like the experience and imagine like the photo of the room.
First of all, they focused on the space, because what we tend to do in the hotel industry in the early 2000s was fill it with a lot of dark furniture that's oversized for the space of the room, and have some sort of manila yellow wall color. And I say that jokingly, but it is the reality. We know it. And tones of maroon, very popular. Anyway, so when they walk in, the first thing people notice is how bright the room is.
Wow.
And they say, this can't be the same room. You've put in more light. No, we have not. You know, what has happened? And so we do that because we remove heavy draperies, right? And we paint the walls really bright white. We have a feature wall in there. So when you walk in though, as a guest, you're going to say, wow, this is a fresh space and I have a lot of space. I think then as a guest, you know, you look at the design, it's really simple. You're going to have a great TV. You're going to be able to stream your favorite shows there in this space. That is not common.
From your phone?
From your phone, and we have a connected room technology, which allows you to safely stream all of your platforms. So if you're a Netflix lover, you can log in.
Every hotel company needs to listen to this and like, I'm sorry, but be a first follower, because I can't stand it when I have this huge TV in front of me. I have to watch it on my phone when I'm trying to go to bed.
All that we just actually launched on a connected room Peloton. So if you're a Peloton user and you do their strength training classes, I don't know if you like that, or maybe some of your listeners do, you can now do your Peloton in your room, because you can log into your account and access the strength classes, which I think is pretty awesome.
That's a game changer. I wish I could do that in my house. I'm sure there's a way to do that in my house.
But you haven't figured it out. Me neither. So I'm still on the little TV that's on the bike. But anyways, the desk pivots. This is one of my favorite things. So the desk is a pivoting desk. It has an underpiece to it that pivots out. So think about if you're traveling with your kids, your daughter, right? You're going to Taylor Swift, and you walk in and your daughter and you are having a quick bite to eat in the room because your flight was late and you've got to head to the concert. There's 2 places for you to sit.
No way.
I mean, it's the little things like that, right? That appreciate it. There's a place to hang your coat that's not in the closet because we put hooks on the wall. Bedside lamps that you don't have to get out of bed to turn off the lamp, right? You can just turn it off there. And then probably the most popular, I will say, for guests is all of the power outlets. So, right, we all travel with 4 devices. We have our iPads, our phones, our computers, you name it. And I hate when I have to get behind the bed or I have to unplug something that I don't know what's going to happen to the room if I unplug it. So what we did is we lifted all of the power to bedside or desktop. So you don't have to have that. So on average, we have 6 power outlets in the room that sit at countertop level.
Fantastic. So, okay, thank you for that. And now I love how many independent brands, like even independent hotels, not independent brands, a standalone hotel as a brand, have been making use of brand more and more. Whereas the bigger companies like Hilton, for instance, you know, right, you create these brands or acquire these brands or organically grow these brands, as you say. And what I love, and I'm hearing more on the independent side now, but I think it's come from you guys, or the idea of pillars, right? And any branding exercise, right? You have to come up with the pillars, and everything follows from that if you're doing it the right way. So it's almost like values in a company. But the first one you said was simple to the owner to enter, simple for the owner to enter. The second one was simple for the team to know how to work in this new brand. And the third one was simple for the guest. On the simple to the owner, I know we've been talking a lot about the owner. I want to go to the second 2 in a minute, but to be able to have done a hotel in 4 months or average 7, I know you brought up HSM and Hilton Supply Management. Aside from negotiating the prices, which is important to get that $8,000 number for the room, what was the strategy on inventory? Because when you have that much scale, it's not like you still have to make that furniture. So there must have been some negotiation. I don't really play in the select service space or focus service space, which is an interesting business. But like, how did that come up? Like, what did the manufacturers have to hold in inventory so that they could supply this growth and make it a 7-month average? Because normally it's a year and a half for a regular one-off
Right.
hotel. Like from the time that you're like, oh, let's do a renovation, it's it's a year and a half. Hey, everybody. We've been doing this podcast for over 3 years now. And one of the themes that consistently comes up is sustainability. And I'm just really proud to announce that our sponsor, Berman Falk Hospitality Group, is the first within our hospitality industry to switch to sustainable and recyclable packaging, eliminating the use of styrofoam. Please check out their impact page in the show notes for more info.
So the purchasing is HSM is our preferred purchasing agent. So every owner will purchase their product through HSM. So that's first how you can work with the manufacturers to guarantee that things are ready on time. Because what we were able to do is go to our partners and say, listen, we're building this brand. Our pipeline is X number of hotels. So it's all going to get purchased, right? So we had credibility and buying power behind us. And when the partners see that, they're willing to put it in stock, right? And to keep it because they know you're going to buy 1,000 headboards in the next 2 months, right? So it's worth it for us to have it. So that's really what it is. It's about having really good partnerships with your vendors. And HSM has some of the best in the industry. And being able to use the power of Hilton. And at that time when we launched the brand, the pipeline behind it to ensure that they were going to get what we said they were going to get. And they have, and they've overwhelmingly have been thrilled with it and continue to keep inventories up. So at any given time, we generally have about 40 hotels worth of inventory spread in various warehouses across the, yeah. So it's the components to make the items, right? Because they make it on demand, but
But they also need to plan ahead and probably buy a lot of those power hubs and the TV and just have those all waiting as well. Because sometimes it's funny where you can get pinched on a long lead item that just like becomes a critical path and kind of messes everything up. So that's pretty awesome.
we also chose things that other brands are using, other Hilton brands too, right? So that you've got some like the nightlight, a great example in the bathroom, right? Every brand in our category uses that nightlight. So you not only have Little Spark, you have Powerhouse Hampton, right? Purchasing that. So
okay, so you have 90+% are conversions into the brand from outside of Hilton.
yeah.
So that's on the owner level, right? You've created all this supply chain, a package that's that will both last a long time and be like budget friendly, so to speak, and also have outsized impact as far as changing it. But then you have the Hilton. What's good for Hilton about this? Every time I go to a hotel conference, and for the first couple times in the past couple of years, everyone was talking about NUG. I had no idea what they were talking about. And then I was like, I had to ask someone, wait, what is NUG? And it's net unit growth. But as far as like for the CEOs of these companies, so in terms of like Chris Nassetta at Hilton, NUG is like super important as a brand. And they talk about it at all these quarterly shareholder meetings and earnings reports and all that. That must be such a home run for those earnings calls as well at Hilton.
Yes, it is. It is. You certainly, yes, that's what I'll say.
Okay, but I can't imagine like I'm trying to think about the other brands out there, and I don't think I've heard growth that much, except for maybe Sonesta when they did that huge acquisition of just different portfolios and put it together. Like to be able to be on a growth path of a new brand that you've created yourself organically from a net unit growth perspective, I can't think of anything else out there right now that's growing like that.
No, we have gotten out ahead, right, of the industry. We let it. There are now competing brands in the same space, right?
Mm.
And they will do what they can, right, to catch up because because they saw, right, the incredible power.
You created a runway with that skunkworks metaphor. Like you
That's right.
created like a moat of time almost, if you will. I mean, it's super awesome as an entrepreneur to hear that.
It's awesome. You know, Chris is always thinking, right? And he knows, right? So it's interesting that he started probably asking the question, right? And challenging his team, the team, to think about this. And it came at a perfect time, right? I mean, when you just think about the investment community and where hotel growth is coming from right now, right? It's predominantly conversion at this moment in time. And so to really get out in front of it, right, and kind of read the tea, so to speak, before the tea is poured is awesome. And we've benefited from that. So,
Well, I think what's also interesting is from the net unit growth, you've created this pretty cool, this spark, and it's really helping fuel that, I would imagine. Um, but then I also hear from, and this is actually a good pivot point to talk about one of the other pillars, which is the guest. I hear a lot of the, like, if you look at the earnings from the big hotel companies, a lot of the earnings are coming from luxury lifestyle because they command a higher ADR. They can be more profitable if done well. And that's like a real bright spot. Not necessarily, it might not be growing their units, but like they're able to outperform on earnings. That being said, there's a certain type of customer that loves those luxury lifestyle. And some of them may stay at Spark, but when you think about the pillar regarding the guest, walk us through how you think about that. Because the guest may have been staying at that hotel in Markham, for instance, there, but I'm sure they get repeat people. And what's the guest feedback at Markham or Mystic or any of the other 160 plus hotels?
yeah, yeah. Listen, you hit a nail on the head with luxury lifestyle, right? Everybody aspires to stay at those. You want that experience, right? Everybody wants that, regardless if your demographic in terms of how you choose hotels today in your life is at the Spark level or at the Hampton level. You strive to reach the Waldorf Astoria level. So it's really important to have those brands and those experiences available to your guests in your entire ecosystem. With Spark, what's interesting is that we historically haven't had that demographic, right? Because when you speak to, and what we call them as value maximizers, right? They're seeking a high value, simple experience. They oftentimes are young, by the way, new professionals, right? I'll call them, they're starting their traveling careers, whether it's leisure or business. And how they use hotels and what they tell us is the hotel is a place to sleep and I expect a good experience. But the reason I am there is not the hotel, it's because of XYZ. Um, so when we were talking to them and they're like, you don't really have that at the price point I want to pay, right? Because Hampton is aspirational for them. We want to stay at Hampton, but it's outside of my price point at this point. So we didn't have a brand in that space. And then we have True, which was designed, but has punched above its weight in terms of price, right? It's a fantastic experience, by the way, if you have traveling sports teams or even business, like that lobby is incredible, activated, right? If I had it for my daughter at Taylor Swift, I would have chosen it, right? Because she would have loved it. But anyways, when we talk to those travelers, we didn't have that price point. So how are they responding to that? I mean, I think it's a tale of two stories. You have Hilton Honors members who are trying us. They love Hilton. They are loyal to Hilton and they are trying our brand and they are saying, wow, right? Wow, I can't believe the before and after of this hotel and I will stay there for this stay occasion. You hit it on, right? Like this specific trip. And then you have these new to Hilton members, right? Are the people that we strive to get into our system and build loyalty and brand love. And they're saying whether they stayed at that hotel for 20 years before, they're saying, wow, I can't believe what you've done. And I'm so excited to stay at Hilton. Let me join now. And then there are the ones that are just saying like, I didn't even know Hilton had a brand like this for me. And so now I'm going to try it out. So overall, the design and the experience they're getting is really positive. The sentiment has been positive. It's not without learning, right? There are learning moments in it, and we've evolved. I always like to poke a little fun at myself, is we thought a comfort height stool would suffice at a desk, right? And early on, guests, both honors members and new, we're saying, where is the chair for me to work at or to sit at, right? And
That's
so
probably me.
I don't know, right? Exactly. Me too. And so we quickly had to learn and adapt, right? And say, okay, we made a design error, right? We thought this would work. It's not really resonating. And we put in a chair in the rooms, and they're in the process of implementing that across the brand. So we are not perfect, but we learn from our mistakes and are trying to adapt to what our guests are telling us.
Okay, let's go to the third pillar of the team. So if 90+% of these are conversions from other brands doing it other brand ways into Hilton.
Yeah.
Recently, someone asked me, like, what's the biggest technological cool thing I'm seeing in our industry? And I was like, I don't know, there's a lot, but like technology is cool, but people are cooler, right? It's really about the people
100%.
that make it. So what are some great examples of before and after from the people that are working in the heart of the house? And I still love the fact that Hilton calls it heart of house and not back of house, because that's where I think personally, and I'm biased, that all the magic happens.
Yeah, agree. We ask, so when we go see the hotels, we always talk to the team members. What do you like? What don't you like? You know, what's happening? And we don't get a lot of what we don't like. And I don't mean that to be
They don't like the
bold.
stool.
They don't like the stool. They kept saying, "Where's the chair?" The guests are yelling at me for the chair. But you know, two things. The housekeepers particularly love it because what we've done is we've removed drawers and complicated furniture to clean, right? So the idea is that they can get in and out of that room more efficiently. We thought about everything from furniture to even the top of bed product, right? And how long it takes them to make a bed, change a bed, and make a bed. So they are really, really positive about the before and after experience. Not only that, you're now a part of Hilton's award-winning culture, right? You have access to a lot of benefits that you might not have, whether you're new to Hilton or not.
That's actually a really important part too, because as much as I think it's, again, I'm not sure, I have to fact check myself on this, but I'm just going to say it because I believe this. For a Fortune 500 company like Hilton to get most innovative by Fast Company, like their Fast Company, I think from my memory, is not giving those awards to Fortune 500 companies typically. It's like fast growth, small companies, like maybe in the Inc. 5000 or something that fit that. But Hilton also consistently is ranked as one of the top companies to work for.
The top.
I'm sorry, the top, the top. Chris, I hope you're listening. And I'm sure a lot of that comes from him, but also like the entire team and culture that you've built. So, like, give us an example of if you have an example or a generality of a before, to, and after. I know you touched on it, but that's maybe wanted to contextualize what we're talking about.
So we've been talking about pillars and like the 3 pillars within Simple. We actually had 4 pillars, and our first and very first pillar that we had was this pillar called pride. And is the owner proud that he or she chose Hilton to franchise with? Is the guest proud to say, where are you staying tonight? Oh, I'm staying at Spark, right? And is the team member proud to work where they work? And that's huge, because if the team member is not proud about where they work, that translates to the guest service. And we know that. So that was really important to us. And so it's funny at it's not funny. It's a good story. At Mystic, Connecticut, we asked our first opening at grand opening, we asked the front desk manager who had been at the hotel for years at the previous affiliation and then stayed with us on to Spark. And the first day he was so happy. Like you could just see this guy radiating, right?
Wow.
With excitement. And so we said, what excites you about this? And he said, I used to dread coming to work every day. And we said, why? And he said, because I just knew the guest wasn't going to have a good experience. They were going to complain, and there was nothing I could do about it because I knew what the experience was. And now I can't wait to come into work because I know they're going to have a good experience, and I'm proud of the experience we're going to have. unprovoked. We did not lead that horse to water. This is what he said. And we were just like, wow, this is exactly why we did what we did. So
Yeah. And I'm sure as you bottle that feeling up, or if you were to bottle that feeling up, I'm sure out of those 160 plus other hotels that have converted into the Spark brand, I'm sure you're, because on top of the conversion, like the before, so many of these hotels, like from a macroeconomic perspective, were able to deplete their capex reserves. They didn't have, like, pips got more relaxed, like, which the guest experience suffers. And now you're providing an easy button that, rather than 15 months, I don't know, maybe select serve, it's not 15 months, but like whatever it is normally, to give them a 7-month average conversion to that joy of the frontline people working there, it's pretty amazing.
people are proud to work in clean and fresh spaces, right? Like when they see their owner has invested, right, in the building that they work in, they inherently are going to be better, right? They're going to be more proud. And that ultimately translates to the guest, because if you walk into a hotel and you have a smiling face, right, because they are proud about where they work, something could go wrong and you're still probably going to remember that smile, right?
As you said that, it reminded me of one of my favorite short stories, which is Ernest Hemingway. He wrote A Clean, Well-Lighted Place. I remember reading that in high school, again in college. And the way in that short story, he just touches upon just that feeling in the room, very in like a short, to the point Hemingway type way, but he just really cuts to the chase there. So if anyone has a chance to read it,
I'm going to go look at it. I'm going to look it up now. That's
yeah.
good.
So as you've built this crazy runway and this brand is taking off globally, what's exciting you most about what you're seeing, like, out there in the short term, medium term, long term, from a Spark perspective?
I think obviously from all short, long, and short, mid, and long, the growth is very exciting. It is beyond, I think, what we could have expected. And we're really proud of that, right? It's really awesome to see what we've been able to do. I think from an owner perspective, I'm really excited to see the performance of these hotels, right? The brand is performing exceptionally well out the gates, and owners, I have countless owners that, are like, this is the best decision we've made, right?
Wow.
And well, going through a renovation is tough. We all know that, regardless of what flag you fly or whatever. It's just a tough experience, right? To come out on the other end and start to see like the green shoots of what you've decided to do is really rewarding. And I actually can't wait to see, like, in the next 2 years, what the brand's performance story is and how we're telling that story, because we're still early, right, in telling that story, because these hotels are opening so fast. And then from a guest perspective, we're doing something so different. I'll never forget, like, when I was a kid and you're driving to Florida from Michigan or Chicago, and you're overnighting, right? Your parents have driven 12 hours and you have to overnight. Oftentimes you get to that experience and you get in there and you're like, "Ugh, what was that?" Right? Because you're just looking for a really great price, because you're just going to pull the kids up in the morning and get back on the road, right? And you get in and you're like, "Oh, what did we just do?" Right? Like, okay, just sleep real quick and then go.
As you're scratching yourself in the car.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's just so unfair, right? Like, just because you may want to pay $100, $110, 115 doesn't mean that your experience shouldn't be good, right? And it shouldn't be clean, bright, as Hemingway would say, consistent from, exit to exit. So I'm really excited that I believe we've done that for the guest, and we've given them this option in Hilton. And ultimately, when they make those decisions, maybe in 20 years, they'll be choosing the Hilton or the Conrad, right, for their vacation. So
So you've created a runway of long-term believers too,
I hope
and
so.
Hilton honors. That's
That's right.
all right. if you were to look at, because you came on to Spark not at the initial Spark, but shortly after the flame was burning, right? Maybe it was a little
It was
candle.
like, we've lit it, now go build it.
Yeah, or it's no, what I'm envisioning is like that old Mission Impossible like flare that it's spark and it's going, and now you gotta make it so. Yeah, this message will self-destruct in 10 seconds. But if you were to look at your forecasts from back then and compare them to like what reality is right now, like what's your opinion on that?
More than quadruple.
No way.
We maybe we underserved ourselves. We just didn't know how the industry would react, right? Like, we knew it was good, and we knew there would be a lot of interest, but we needed to prove ourselves, right? And we needed to. Typically haven't been in this space. We weren't known for this lower mid-scale premium economy entry level space, right? And so for that, you have to do a lot of selling, right? And kind of like, come with us on the journey and find your partners that are willing to take the chance and take the risk. And so we were conservative in how we thought initially the brand would come out of the gates.
It's unbelievable when you get like an asymptotic kind of curve, right? Like an exponential curve. How hard it is for people to forecast and get thinking around that. I read this book called like Exponential Organizations. I think it was Exponential Organizations a while ago. I saw the author speak too, Salim Ishmael. Shout out to you. He's awesome. But he was talking about like when the iPhone came out, right? Or smartphones. I don't know if it was the iPhone in particular, it was smartphones. You had all these analysts that were like thinking about, okay, how many more are they going to grow? 20% this year, 20. And it was like 4 times, 5 times every single year. The analysts couldn't even these are the people who were paid to think about how these things grow. When it hits that steep curve, the hockey stick, if you will, human beings can't think and their brains can't keep up with that level of growth. That's pretty amazing. 4 times. Jeez.
I'm estimating, but yeah, 4 times. But if you think about it, think about the industry just in the US alone, right? There is always an opportunity for conversion in this space, right? Like, the hotel space is predominantly made up of upper mid-scale and mid-scale hotels. So it's kind of a great evergreen opportunity, right? You can always plant new trees as other trees go.
Okay, so now you have these followers in your competitive set who are trying to come up with something like that. That skunkworks mentality and that idea, right? Because it started as an idea that maybe was had a quarter of the forecast right, but they still knew something was good there. To protect that gave you a real moat of time to launch that, and it's really exciting because I know that you say that you that Hilton, it's all about organic growth, but recently Hilton's made some pretty interesting acquisitions. But like for Graduate, for instance, that I think is one of the most innovative, focused, targeted type of brands that I've seen in a long time, and it's a real win there. But I also think, as many as they've built, I still think it's an untapped market that can grow. And then NoMad, I don't know, they have maybe 1 or 2 hotels, but one in Vegas,
London.
London. Oh yeah, well it was Vegas at the MGM, and then there was the first one. But they did such a good job with the first one, and then to me that's it has this like mystique of luxury that now they can organically grow into, right? It's not like it's there. That was a really cool acquisition as well. But to hear this outperform, it makes me excited to think about what other skunkworks are going on at Hilton and your competitors, to be quite frank.
A lot. There always is, right?
Because every time you think about each of these brands having so many brands, you're like, okay, there's a diminishing return now, or like they've reached an upper limit. But then you have a story like this, which has started as an idea, a spark, and it's crazy. I mean, it's unbelievable.
When you think about brands like NoMad and Graduate, though, like, they're very distinctive experiences, right? They are giving a very distinctive level of hospitality, and that's how Hilton looks at it, right? We are a hospitality company first and foremost. We are a business of people serving people whatever experience, and we strive to give people the experience that they want. And so those growth stories, well, yes, acquisitions are very distinct experiences in hospitality, and it made sense for us. But we will build upon those stories organically, right? NoMad will grow, Graduate will continue to grow. And Spark obviously is a rocket ship.
And then forget about like your space hotel as well. I mean, it's pretty awesome. Um, so I mean, to me, this is really exciting. It's not a sandbox I necessarily play in with Berman Falk as far as doing custom furniture and seating, because we're more in that luxury lifestyle space. But I completely respect and like am awestruck by how incredibly steep this growth curve is, and like how no one thought about this before. Like it's pretty wild. And maybe it was just a perfect storm of events. But as it pertains to Spark or Hilton, are there any questions that you wish I would have asked you that we didn't hit in our conversation, which I've loved, by the way?
I loved it too.
It's not over yet. It's not over.
It's not over yet. No, I think it was a really great conversation. So thank you. You're a good conversationalist.
Oh, thank you. Well, and also I'm going to send you that clean, well-lighted place short story by Ernest Hemingway, because I think he captures something, and I haven't read it in 20 years, so I want to read it again. But I just remember, I'm looking around in my office right now. I'm like,
it's very clean and well lit, is what I'll say. Your office. So,
well, you're not seeing the things that are off camera. There's a couple piles, physical piles, and that need some processing. But I've enjoyed this so much, Alissa, so much. I really thank you for sharing the story. If people wanted to learn more about you or Hilton or Spark, what's the best way for them to get in touch?
Yeah. Hilton.com, right, will give you all information about Spark, as well as information on developing Spark. You can also find me on LinkedIn if you want to reach out to me personally. And I'm here, sparking it up.
Spark it up.
Yeah.
Spark it up. Well, seriously, thank you for sharing your story and this incredible story of exponential growth. I appreciate it. All of our listeners appreciate it too.
Thank you so much for having me. It's good.
And I would be remiss without thanking our listeners. You guys rock. Thank you for exciting me, sparking me to have these awesome conversations and learn so much and share this learning and impact. If this you think would change an owner's perspective on converting to a Spark, or it gave you a new idea for thinking a little bit differently to foster some kind of great impact or growth, please pass it along. If you think anyone else can benefit from it, like it, leave comments, subscribe. It all helps impact everyone in our industry. So thank you all very, very, very much.